Awesome. Thank you, Ron. So hello, everyone. Again, my name is Shakebrat Levy, and I'm from the product marketing team at Wiz. And today we'll talk about achieving resilience and scale in the cloud. So quickly, before we dive into what does cloud resiliency really mean, I'll do a quick overview about Wiz. So we are a cloud security CNAPP platform, and essentially we help organizations secure everything they build and run in the cloud. So as of today, we're trusted by more than 40% of the Fortune 100 companies. And those are companies across all different industries, as well as many financial services companies out there. Just some examples are Morgan Stanley and Blackstone, as well as other ones. And with that, we're very proud to be voted as the leader in cloud security based on our customers' feedback on the G2 website. So with that in mind, let's jump into why is cloud resiliency so important and needs your attention and security team's attention in 2024. So obviously, as organizations, most organizations, if not all, are already using the cloud today, right? And resiliency is so important for multiple reasons. Obviously, first of all, is helping you ensure your business continuity. So if there's any disruption in operations on the cloud, that will obviously affect your business, your customer, can result in potential financial loss. So we want to avoid that and make sure we have a good resiliency plan in place. And a part of that resiliency plan, we also want to make sure we're protecting our data in the cloud. So obviously data is the backbone of every organization, every company out there. And that includes protecting your data as well as your customers' data to make sure that you can really earn their trust in knowing that their data is protected with you on the cloud. And the last part of the resiliency there is why it's so important is you also want to make sure that you have a disaster recovery plan in place. So if anything were to happen, you will be able to quickly respond and bring your services back live. So with resiliency being top of mind for probably many years now, we are still seeing an increase in the number of cloud attacks. So based on an industry report, there was an increase in 36% in cloud attacks in 2023 over the year before. And the reason to that is most likely as organizations are innovating, and we discussed about AI in the previous session. Organizations are bringing in new types of services, they're expanding their cloud footprint, introducing new technologies, and with that, the attack surface increases as well. So for example, again, AI is on the rise, and most organizations are already experimenting with AI. They have the data science team bringing in new services like OpenAI or the recently released Amazon Bedrock. And these new types of services require organizations to now make sure that they're protected against risks that are specific to those services. So for example, we have new AI risks like data poisoning or data training breaches that organizations now need to protect against. So the reason why we're seeing such growth in cloud attacks is against due to those new types of services like AI, as well as continued supply chain attacks, again, like the Log4j that everyone is very familiar with, or other attacks like nation state attacks or cloud isolation issues. So because cloud attacks are still on the rise, policymakers have really taken notice of the importance of having a cloud resiliency plan in place. So obviously we have the frameworks that have been there for a long time, like GDPR, PCI, HIPAA, ISO, and the other ones. But legislators really are paying attention to resiliency, and that is why there are new types of frameworks that came up with more focus on resiliency, like the NIS2, CRA, and DORA. So having these new compliance standards means that there's new requirements that organizations and financial services organizations need to make sure that they have in place when assessing their cloud service provider. So obviously, first of all, organizations want to do a cloud risk assessment and make sure that the services they're about to start using meets their security requirement. And that includes assessing risk across encryption, security controls, access management, cyber incident handling, and so on. So we want to make sure that we are looking at that before starting to use a new service. With that, also looking at having supply chain risk assessment in place to make sure that everything that One, we can monitor what is in our supply chain. We can detect any risks in it and respond to them, as well as have an incident response and planning program in place. So if something were to happen, how do we respond to it? So that's all part of having that resiliency plan in place. So these are some I want to cover, 3 patterns that we've seen with financial services organizations when they implemented a resiliency program. So these are actual things that customers look for in a security solution to help them make sure they are resilient on the cloud. And these patterns can apply across the board to different kinds of organizations to make sure that they're staying resilient. So the first pattern that we're seeing, which is probably not surprising to most, is that organizations want to make sure they have a deep understanding of their cloud footprint. So this is really the backbone of cloud security. So if we don't know what is in our environment, we can't secure it. And oftentimes, organizations and customers come to us complaining that they have blind spots in their environment. They don't know what's running in their multi-cloud environment. They don't have visibility into every single technology. And because of that, security teams are unable to secure the environment effectively. So that is the first step in the resiliency plan, is making sure that organizations can gain 100% coverage and visibility across all cloud resources, but not just cloud resources, as well as every technology and workload that is running in the environment. And that is all without agents. So organizations want to know exactly what workloads are in the environment, what technologies are there, without having to deploy an agent maintain, because those can lead to blind spots down the line if you don't have the agent deployed, right? The second piece there is that they want to be able to drive standardization across all clouds. So most organizations are not just running in one cloud. They're most likely running in AWS, Azure, GCP, across multi-cloud environments. And having consistent visibility across all those different clouds is very important, that a solution can provide you with that single pane of glass that covers all the different clouds. So for example, rather than having to go into your security tool and saying, show me all the S3 buckets or show me all the Azure blob storage, you want to be able to quickly say, hey, show me all my storage buckets in my environments and see all of them across your different clouds. And that also will help us when we look at risks and we query for risks. So we want to see risks across the board, across all of our different clouds, and that really will help us operationalize security down the line. With that, visibility also has to do with gaining visibility into our software supply chain. So having capabilities like SBOM to see every single software framework that is running in our environment, as well as any IC templates that are being used in the environment. So that's the first pattern, gaining visibility, and security teams can measure and gain some metrics from that by looking at what workloads are in my environment, what are the data stores, dependencies, and the overall inventory of what is in my cloud footprint. So the second pattern that organizations are adopting and looking in a security tool in order to make sure their resilience is having threat intelligence. So obviously, many organizations focus on vulnerability and emerging threats. So they want to know, hey, I have these vulnerabilities in my environment, or hey, there's new emerging threat. Where is this threat in my environment? So the first step is knowing what are the emerging threats. Are there any zero-day vulnerabilities? So that's through integrating with either native or third-party intel feeds about vulnerabilities. But then most importantly, organizations want to know, where do I have those threats in my environment? So as I mentioned, a multi-cloud environment can get very complex. And when there's a new vulnerability that comes up, we want to quickly be able to tell, hey, I am vulnerable here, here, and here, and these are the resources that are vulnerable. So we want to be able to respond quickly, right? So that is the key for a security solution, to be able to tell you, hey, these are all the places across your multi-cloud environment that you are vulnerable. And measuring success there is organizations often look at the severity of the vulnerability. So which ones they need to prioritize first. What is their mean time to detect it? So will my solution notify me right away when there's a new vulnerability in my environment? And what is my mean time to respond? So can the security solution I use help me in guiding me? What is the necessary remediation that I need to take in order to remove that threat? So the third pattern is very important and layers on the previous one. So organizations want to gain insights that surface the real issues. So what does that mean? So if we back it up to the previous pattern number 2, let's say we know, oh, hey, there's the new vulnerability and I have 200 different instances that are now affected by this vulnerability. My security team gets notified, but now how do they know which ones they need to focus on first and remediate first, right? It can get very overwhelming if you're getting just many, many alerts about vulnerabilities and you don't have much context around them. So that is why security teams really look for that context around a specific risk so they can proactively find attack paths in the environment. So what do I mean by an attack path? So let's say we know we have a machine that is vulnerable, but now we add in additional context to it. So now we know that machine that's vulnerable is also exposed to the internet. So that means someone could reach to it, obviously. And let's say we know that the role that's attached to that machine would allow an attacker to move laterally in the environment and potentially reach my crown jewel, so my sensitive data in my environment. So now that we have this additional context, security teams know, hey, there's a machine here that's vulnerable, but it's completely isolated. But here there is a machine that can actually lead someone to my sensitive data. So now I know that I need to focus on remediating this risk first, right? So this really helps security teams save time, not being distracted by alerts that might be not as important, and really focus on removing critical risk in their environment. So once they gain that context and we're able to understand what are the attack paths in the environment, security teams can take that information and use it to shift left to detect risks early on in the development pipeline. So they can both empower developers with direct access to the security tool so they can see, hey, these are, for example, the vulnerabilities or the misconfigurations that were discovered in my pipeline, block those before they ever reach production. So the way to measure these types of insights is by looking at the different controls. So which ones of my controls are failing? How long does it take me to fix the control and bring it back from a failed state? And can I scan my code, and can I scan my ISC templates to discover those misconfigurations and vulnerabilities early on? So those 3 patterns cover kind of the high level of how organizations are working to achieve resilience in the cloud. But resiliency is really just one of many topics that security organizations pay attention to when it comes to cloud security. So if we take a look at the rest of kind of the cloud security wish list and other things that we hear from our FSI's customers, so again, it comes down to wanting to gain that cloud visibility that I discussed. So organizations are really looking to have a holistic view into their end-to-end exposure and into their cloud footprint, all on a single platform. And with that, they're looking to gain that context around different risks. So a lot of organizations traditionally are using multiple different tools, so vulnerability management tool, CSPM tool, as well as others. And because of that, the data for each one of those is siloed from each other. And then organizations have to go in and manually correlate them, which maybe some of you are familiar with, which results in kind of operational inefficiencies when it comes to detecting critical risks. So that is why organizations are really looking to gain that context. Obviously, still top of mind is ensuring compliance on the cloud. So businesses really need to make sure that they're meeting their specific compliance regulations, most likely wanting to have it in an automated way on their security solution. The last 2 here is once organizations were able to achieve that security posture kind of in their production environment, they're looking to democratize cloud security in their organization. So what does that mean? So essentially, as an organization's cloud footprint grows and they start using more and more services and the environment becomes more complex, oftentimes security teams can't hire as fast as their cloud environment grows. So because of that, the way that organizations are trying to keep up with cloud security in a constantly growing environment is by democratizing cloud security across different teams in the organization. So they do that by providing, let's say, the developers, or now, let's say, the data science team with direct access to the security tool, and also a very simplified view of risk. So then they can go in and developers can be the owners of security of their resources So the security team doesn't have to go and ping the developers every time there's an issue, but the developers can actually understand quickly the risk and understand quickly how they can remediate it and own the security for it themselves. Last but not least, the last item of this wish list is making sure that they have a robust detection and response in place. So if something were to happen and if there is a threat, can we detect it quickly? Can we understand the context around that threat and understand how we can reduce the blast radius and remove the threat? So those are the kind of top of minds when it comes to cloud security. And now quickly back to Wiz. So we really enable financial services organizations to secure their environment kind of across all those different initiatives. So when it comes to ensuring resiliency in the cloud, the first thing that Wiz does is it provides customers with visibility. So we connect to cloud environments without any agents or anything, only using the cloud provider's APIs. So customers can connect to Wiz within minutes and then immediately gain visibility into every single resource and technology in their environment, again, all without agents. So it's very quick time to value when it comes to connecting and then quickly seeing what's in my environment and then understanding the risks within it. So kind of the next one there is preventative controls and measures. So Wiz has built in both configuration rules and then those more advanced controls that I mentioned from the attack paths. So as I mentioned, for example, an exposed machine that's vulnerable and it can access sensitive data, that's all built in controls within Wiz. So once we scan the environment, we're able to detect those critical attack paths and then provide our customers with a prioritized queue of, hey, these are the most critical risks in your environment. With that, we have our SBOM capabilities and obviously agentless vulnerability scanning so customers can manage supply chain risk as well as vulnerabilities and make sure they're staying protected against those. And we also have our threat center that shows you whenever there's a new emerging threat, we add it to the threat center and then we quickly show our customers, hey, these are all the places in your environment that you're vulnerable. So we actually show them the resources that are being affected by this emerging threat. So that's when it comes to resiliency. Then next, obviously, we help customers avoid risks and reduce risks in the cloud. And that's by running our risk assessment across risk configurations, vulnerabilities, identities, sensitive data, malware, exposed secrets, and so on. So we run that deep risk assessment and we show all that information on what we call the Wiz security graph. So there's actually a security graph that shows all the resources in the environment and then all the risks that are found in the environment. And that is how Wiz uses the information to detect those attack paths. So customers can effectively reduce risk. And then also we recently launched our AI security posture management capabilities. So we provide customers with both visibility into their AI stack, as well as visibility into every risk in the AI pipeline. So quickly for the last three, we help our financial services customers democratize security across different teams. So Wiz, because all the information is on the security graph, it makes it very easy to non-security experts to understand, hey, this is the context around a specific risk in the environment. And also Wiz provides them with exact prioritization. So, hey, this is the most critical risk. So if a developer goes into Wiz, they don't need to spend time understanding what's going on in the environment, understanding how to remediate a risk. They quickly see which one's the most critical one, and they can see, hey, this is the remediation steps I need to take to remediate it. So it really helps different teams in their organizations adopt Wiz and start using it as well. The last two there is that we help customers ensure compliance through automated compliance assessments. So we have over 140 different frameworks that we support that customers can go in and create reports in the click of a button and then either get granular reports or executive reports that show their compliance status against those frameworks. And then once customers achieve all those different initiatives, they can really focus on the broader ones and the broader strategy of driving digital transformation in their environment, whether it's product launches, M&A, and so on. Quickly, I'll go over one case study from Aon that really speaks to the power of how Wiz provides visibility and risk prioritization to our customers. So Aon was running or is running global footprint across 120 different countries, and their environment grows very rapidly through M&A activity. So they came to Wiz with some challenges around not having a single view of their multi-cloud environment. And at the time, they were using 10 different tools in order to identify and remediate risks in the environment. So because of that, it was very time consuming to understand risk, as well as when it came to compliance reporting, a lot of that was manual. So it really took some time on their security team. So once they came to Wiz, they're able to very quickly connect their entire environment and gain that visibility in a single view across all of their clouds and all of their environments, and quickly understand risks and vulnerabilities across the entire multi-cloud footprint. So they're also able to provide their developers with access to Wiz so they can fix the risks themselves, which really help them scale out. And they took advantage of Wiz's compliance reporting to kind of remove that need of any manual compliance, as well as obviously consolidate tools from 10 tools to a single CNAPP platform that provided them with all those use cases across the board. And with that, I think we're at time, so I will wrap it up here. If you would like to learn more about Wiz, please check out our website, and we have a specific page for financial services as well, with some more information there and some more assets.